Hello, I'm Lou Brown and you're watching A News. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Polish president approves NATO troop deployment, strengthening the country's defense amid rising regional tensions. U.S. and Chinese officials will hold a second day of trade talks in Spain on Monday. And Doha is to host emergency Arab-Islamic summit today to discuss the Israeli attack on Qatar. Now, Polish President Karol Nawrocki has signed an agreement allowing NATO troops to be stationed in the country as part of the Eastern Sentry operation, Poland's National Security Bureau announced on Sunday. The specific arrangement and details of the deployment decision are confidential and will not be disclosed. Eastern Sentry is designed to bolster the alliance's eastern flank with a particular focus on air defences. The announcement came just a day after Polish officials reported that 19 Russian drones had entered their airspace. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry stated that its drones had targeted military facilities in western Ukraine, adding that there were no intentions to strike locations in Poland. Continuing on this story, Polish and Allied jets were deployed in a precautionary operation to safeguard the country's airspace from potential drone threats. Airports were temporarily closed and air defences were placed on high alert. Authorities emphasised that the measures were purely preventative.
Polish and Allied aircraft have been scrambled in what officials describe as a preventive operation to secure the country's airspace. The move comes amid fears of drone strikes spilling over from neighbouring Ukraine. The alert was issued on Saturday, forcing the temporary closure of Lublin Airport in eastern Poland. It lasted around 2 hours before being lifted, during which authorities also warned residents in several border counties of a potential air threat. Ground-based air defence and reconnaissance systems were placed on high alert, though the military stressed the measures were precautionary, aimed at protecting Polish citizens and deterring any escalation. The alert comes after a major incident on Wednesday, when NATO jets shot down 19 Russian drones that had entered Polish airspace, leaving debris across the countryside, according to Prime Minister Tusk. European leaders have since called the incident a deliberate provocation by Moscow. Russia insists it did not target Poland, while its ally Belarus has claimed the drones veered off course after being jammed. By Saturday evening, Poland's operational command confirmed the mission was complete and air defences stood down, highlighting ongoing tensions along the country's eastern border.
Looking at the implications, thousands of Poles are signing up for voluntary military training as fears of Russian aggression grow. It comes after Poland shot down Russian drones in its airspace last week, the first NATO member known to have fired during the war in Ukraine. Just 6 kilometers from the Russian border in northern Poland, Office Administrator Agnieszka is digging a trench. She's not a soldier, but she wants to be ready to defend her family, including her 13-year-old son, if war ever comes.
I always say I would do anything to keep my child safe. I would absolutely stand and fight to protect him, and the rest, well...
Thousands of Poles like her are signing up for voluntary military training, part of a nationwide push to strengthen Poland's defences amid growing fears of Russian aggression. Those fears spiked this week after Poland shot down Russian drones in its airspace, the first time a NATO country has fired during Russia's war in Ukraine. The Kremlin dismissed Western concerns as emotional overload, insisting it poses no threat. But Poland isn't taking chances.
This is one of the main tasks for units in peacetime, to train the reserves. It's not something extra, additional, or often even unnecessary. It's one of the core responsibilities because every conflict shows one thing. Conflicts are always won by the reserves, especially long-lasting ones.
Training for new volunteers is underway at Braniewo, a military base near the border. More than 20,000 Poles have already signed up this year, and officials expect that figure to reach 40,000 by December, more than double the numbers seen in 2022.
I'm the oldest of 3 siblings, so I feel this kind of this need to protect my family. Just like our ancestors once defended these lands, I feel a responsibility to carry that on if such a need were to arise.
Since Russia's invasion, Poland has more than doubled its defence spending, now devoting 4.7% of its economy to the military, the highest ratio in NATO. For many here, it's about being ready and facing what they call a new reality on NATO's eastern flank. Moving on to Zapad 2025, the ongoing joint military exercise between Russian and Belarusian forces. On Sunday, Russia's defense ministry released new footage from the drills showing a missile launched vertically from a frigate before angling off into the horizon. According to the Russian defense ministry, the drills included the coastal missile system BAL firing Uran missiles, with military helicopters providing fire support to assault groups. Baltic Fleet forces also practiced emergency rescue operations for ships. In a separate video from Belarus, soldiers were shown setting up command posts and securing communication centers at the Borisovsky training range. The Zapad 2025 Joint Strategic Military Exercise is set to continue until September the 16th. Now, US and Chinese officials will hold a second day of trade talks in Spain on Monday. The negotiations, led by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Vice Premier He Lifeng, come as a US deadline approaches for TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to sell its US operations or face a nationwide ban. The talks are also addressing tariffs and export controls, with both sides agreeing to extend their current truce until November.
We made very good progress on the technical details of the agreement. In terms of the agreement, the overall agreement itself, our Chinese counterparts have come with very aggressive asks. We will see if we can get there. At present, we are not willing to sacrifice our national security for a social media app, and we will see where we get today.
Now, Elon Musk's satellite internet service Starlink was back online for most users after a brief outage on Monday. The platform tracks outages by collating status reports from multiple sources. By this morning, nearly 40,000 users had reported issues. Starlink confirmed the disruption, saying its team is investigating. Outage reports came from multiple US states and countries like Ukraine, with some users regaining access after brief interruptions. Most of the reported problems included 60% related to internet issues, 39% citing a total blackout, and 1% complaining of poor service. Looking to the Middle East, Qatar says Israel's strike on Doha will not derail its mediation in Gaza. Arab and Islamic leaders are gathering in the Qatari capital for an emergency summit, aiming to show unity after what they call a violation of Qatar's sovereignty.
On Sunday, Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani told Arab and Islamic foreign ministers that Israel's actions will not stop joint efforts with Egypt and the United States to end the Gaza war. The meeting prepared the ground for Monday's emergency Arab-Islamic summit, with delegations from across the region drafting a resolution condemning Israel's strike and warning it threatens peace, coexistence and the future of regional normalization.
Israel's barbaric and demagogic practices will not deter us from continuing our sincere efforts with Egypt and the United States to stop this unjust war.
The September 9th strike on a residential building killed 5 Hamas members and a Qatari security officer, though Hamas's senior negotiating team survived. Israel defended the attack as a legitimate move against militant leaders it says were blocking a hostage deal, but Arab officials denounced it as a blatant violation of sovereignty.
The state of Qatar will not tolerate any violation of its sovereignty or threat to its national security. We will confront any threat with all means guaranteed by international law.
Arab League chief Ahmed Abul Gate called the assault an attack on the entire Arab and Islamic world.
The message of this summit, which must reach everyone loud and clear, is solidarity with Qatar, Doha, from the Arab and Islamic worlds, against the aggression of the occupying Israeli state.
Regional leaders, including Iraq's Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, warned the aggression will not stop at Qatar, urging the creation of a joint Arab-Islamic defense alliance. The draft resolution, seen by Reuters, brands the strike a destabilizing escalation and accuses Israel of genocide and expansionist policies. It warns such actions endanger all existing and future agreements to normalize ties with Israel. Meanwhile, Washington has voiced rare unease. President Donald Trump told Qatar's emir that such a thing will not happen again on their soil, while calling Doha a close ally in ceasefire talks and hostage negotiations. As the summit opens in Doha, leaders are expected to send a united message of solidarity with Qatar. But it seems with Israel vowing to keep up pressure on Hamas leaders abroad, the crisis has already raised the stakes for ceasefire efforts and for the region's path toward peace.
Remaining in the region, intense shelling in Gaza has forced dozens of families to abandon makeshift shelters as access to food, water and medical aid remains critically low. Local authorities report at least 16 killed on Sunday, while Israel expands aid zones in the south to help those fleeing the north. The sound of shelling echoed across the Gaza Strip on Sunday as intensified military operations forced dozens of families to flee makeshift shelters. Many residents are now unsure where to go next. The escalation has worsened the humanitarian crisis, where access to food, water and medical supplies remains critically low. People here say they are living in constant fear.
The bombardment intensified everywhere and we uninstalled the tents, more than 20 families. We do not know where to go. The bombardment is everywhere. Fragments reached here.
Local health authorities report that at least 16 people were killed by Israeli fire on Sunday, including 7 in Gaza City. In the past 2 days, dozens of homes have been destroyed by airstrikes.
I swear that every time I hear a bullet, I get scared to death. I have 4 brothers who were martyred in this war. I have nobody. I am scared that our turn will come to die. I have been here for 8 months. Nobody asks me where I am. I am tired. I do not find food. I have to go to Zikim to get food for my children. I am tired. God saved me from death 5 times. Here I am sitting. I am tired. Where can I get money for displacement from? Where from?
The Israeli army says it is expanding an area in the southern Gaza Strip called Crossing 147. The move is intended to increase the flow of aid into a humanitarian zone and to prepare for the arrival of people fleeing the northern areas. We'll be back after a short break. When we return, we will discuss NATO's resolve and Poland's reaction to the latest drone incident.
Oil rocks, the symbol of Azerbaijan's oil history.
A legacy lasting more than 70 years, but now a new challenge emerges. How will we secure the future?
By 2035, we aspire to become a national energy company, and by 2050, we aspire to become a net zero company.
We showcase the latest developments in the field, be it oil and gas exploration, be it green energy projects, and also digital transformation.
This is a place where Azerbaijan speaks with the wind, 240 megawatt wind power plant.
SOCAR, together with Aqua Power's know-how in advanced technologies, developing renewable projects.
En büyük The biggest change at SOCAR is in digitalization and safety. All processes are being automated.
At the heart of SOCAR's strength lies the professionalism of its human resources and the spirit of its collective.
SOCAR, from the legacy of oil rocks to the horizons of green energy, the future begins now.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
Welcome back to A News. In recent days, tensions in Eastern Europe have surged following a dramatic incident on Poland's eastern border. In the early hours of September 10th, around 20 suspected Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace during a large-scale attack on Ukraine, marking the first known airspace violation of a NATO member since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began in February 2022. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has described this as, quote, the closest we have been to open conflict since World War II. In response, NATO invoked Article 4, launching a new military operation dubbed Eastern Sentry, aimed at bolstering defences on Europe's eastern flank. The operation involves troops and air assets from multiple NATO countries, including Denmark, France, the UK and Germany, now being deployed to Poland. The United States has vowed to defend, in its words, every inch of NATO territory, while NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has called the drone incursion, quote, reckless and unacceptable. Meanwhile, Moscow has downplayed the incident, suggesting it had, quote, no plans to target facilities in Poland. To help us make sense of what this all means, we're joined by Nikola Mikovic, a journalist and political analyst based in Belgrade, Serbia, who closely follows Eastern and European Russian affairs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How significant is this drone incursion into Polish airspace? Was this a test of NATO's resolve?
I think it is, but I think it is also a test of NATO's air defense capabilities. And it's not the first time that Russia is doing that. It has a history of helping Ukraine test its air defense capabilities. In 2022, 2023, and 2024, Russia launched numerous strikes on Ukraine, targeting empty buildings, abandoned barracks, fields, meadows, and so on. The goal, in my opinion, of such strikes was not to destroy Ukraine's military capabilities, but to help its air defense systems. I'm talking about new air defense systems that Ukraine recently got from NATO countries. So to help Kiev improve air defense capabilities. I'm not saying Russia did that on purpose. It's quite possible that Russian military made some mistakes, although it's quite strange that Russia did not hit any of the so-called decision-making centers in Ukraine, but rather targeted some completely insignificant buildings or facilities. So I think that was the point of those strikes in 2022, 2023, and so on. Now, this time, Russia seems to be using the same strategy in Poland, although it did not launch a missile or a drone attack on Poland. It was a violation of Poland's airspace, so there was no, formally speaking, it was not an attack, although NATO viewed it as a significant incident. But NATO reaction was surprisingly weak. The United States was silent at first, just like Moscow, which indicates that there could be some behind-the-scenes deals between Moscow and Washington, given Trump-Putin relations and so on. although there's no evidence for that. But in any case, Russia is testing its NATO partners, and it's testing their air defense capabilities by sending drones to Polish airspace. And I think we will see more incidents like that in the future, in the coming months and years.
You say NATO's reaction was weak, as well as the US was slightly sluggish as well. But Poland's Prime Minister has called this the closest we've been to open conflict since World War II. In your view, is that an exaggeration, a fair assessment? Where does this stand, this incident?
Well, I think a large-scale conflict between NATO, or at least some NATO members, and the Russian Federation is only a matter of time. Now, that does not mean that there will be a large-scale war this year or next year. It could be in 2030 or so, but I'm afraid that's where we are heading to. And I see this as preparations for a large-scale confrontation. The Polish reaction was rather limited. I think that's because Warsaw did not get the green light from Washington to react. Hypothetically, Poland could launch drone strikes on the Russian Federation, which could raise the stakes, but it did not do that, which tells me that there was no consensus among NATO members on this issue. But nevertheless, I expect Russia to continue crossing the so-called red lines, and NATO members will continue doing the same, because there are reports suggesting that Ukraine was using NATO airspace in the Baltics, launching strikes on Russia's northern regions in St. Petersburg and so on, which means that we are gradually heading towards a large-scale confrontation between certain NATO members and Russia. It does not mean that the United States will get directly involved in a large-scale war, but some NATO members, including Poland, of course, will almost certainly participate.
Let's look at the latest developments now. So NATO responded by launching Operation Eastern Sentry. What does this move tell us about NATO's current level of concern, and what is the likely purpose of this?
I think it's their response to the Zapad 2025 military exercise that Russia and Belarus are conducting in Belarus. NATO countries, in my view, are not ready. They're not prepared for a large-scale war against Russia yet. Poland seems to be most prepared, Turkey as well, but other countries are not, which means that it will take years for them to develop their military-industrial complex to produce enough weapons and ammunition and to prepare their audience for large-scale war that seems to be inevitable. And in the coming months and years, we will see more military drills like this in both Russia and the NATO members. And I expect more incidents, possibly also in Belarus, not just in Russia. And Poland will play a key role in the future, because I think that although there is no political will in Warsaw and in other NATO members to deploy troops to Ukraine, I think sooner or later they will have to make such decisions. So they will deploy some troops. Maybe it will not be the official military. Maybe they will send some military advisors to Ukraine, but that will be just the beginning. If you remember, Russia was using the very same strategy in Syria during the Syrian civil war. Officially, there were no Russian troops on the ground. They sent Wagner mercenaries there, and the Russian military was also there, although they called them, it was Russian term called "ich tam net," meaning they're not there, right? That's what Sergei Lavrov was constantly repeating. Russian troops are not there, although in reality they were there, but not officially, right? So that's something that NATO could now do. It could deploy some troops, some advisors or private military companies to Ukraine, and then claiming there are no regular NATO military there, although in reality, of course, they will be on the ground helping Ukraine. I think at first they will help Ukraine use air defense systems to shoot down Russian missiles and drones.
And in regards to America, Washington has said it will defend every inch of NATO territory. And Trump recently said himself on a post on X, he's ready to hit Russia with tough sanctions if NATO countries stop buying Russian oil. Does this mean US action depends on Europe stopping oil purchases from Russia? Is this serious?
Well, that's how Donald Trump portrayed it. So yes, I will take it seriously because it's quite obvious that he's not ready, at least at this point, to impose serious sanctions on the Russian Federation. And he is now pressuring European countries to stop purchasing Russian oil from countries such as India and China, which would be a very bad decision from their perspective because it would have a serious impact on their economies. But I think in the future, the EU will continue looking for alternative suppliers to its market, which means that they will have to develop closer economic ties with countries such as Nigeria and Azerbaijan and so on in order to replace Russian oil and gas with some other sources, which will be easier said than done. So I think they will have to continue purchasing Russian oil indirectly from countries such as India, China, Turkey, and so on. And Donald Trump can pressure them to end their reliance on Russian oil, but as I said, it will be easier said than done, given their economic position.
Well, I want to quickly get in here before we run out of time. We've seen NATO trigger Article 4. How close are we for Article 5?
Well, Article 4 it's only about discussing next steps that NATO could take. But NATO 5, of course, is crucial. But if you remember when Ukraine invaded parts of the Russian Federation, the Kursk region, Russia did not pressure other members of the Collective Security Treaty Organization to activate the key Article 4 and to help Moscow defend itself. So I'm not sure if Poland or other NATO members will be quick to push for Article 5, because given what Russia already did. So it's possible that there is a behind-the-scenes agreement not to hurry with such steps and to gradually raise the stakes, because, as I said, not all countries are ready for a large-scale confrontation yet, so it will take time for them to prepare for that.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, and that's all we have time for, Nicola, but your insights have been greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll look at key stories shaping the region. Stay tuned.
They have been living here for centuries, guarding their language and their identity. The Turkmens of Iraq, people caught in the storm of history.
Saddam gelir gelmez Türkmenlere farklı bir şekilde baktım.
Hapsına burada kurşuna düzdüğü milletin de ögögünde.
Mahalle katır ayaklarım baş açık. Allah hatırlısı, peygamber hatırlısı. Bunlar suçsuz günahsızdılar.
Türkmen olduğu için hapsini öldürdüler. Ya o Türkmen size ne yapıptı?
Saddam's fall in 2003 promised a new dawn for the Turkmens, but instead it brought even a darker night.
2014'te DAEŞ hücum etti üstümüze. Biz Türkmen bölgesi olduğumuz için bunlar geldi bitirsin mantıkanı ve biz durduk önünde.
85 gün mukavemet etti amirli. Hatta hanımlar silah kaldırdılar DAEŞ'in üzerine.
Ne dilimizden vazgeçerek, ne torpağımızdan vazgeçerek.
Direniş ruhu olmayan millet yaşamaz.
Empires rose and fell, borders shifted, the new flags replaced the old ones. Through this all, they always stood their ground, unheard and unseen. This film is their story, and it's time for the world to hear it.
Hello, I'm Orkun Amashov. Welcome to Dialogue of Civilizations. No man is an island entire of itself. Our true connections as species go far beyond digital technology. In this exciting new series, I'll be exploring a vast and fascinating history of connections between civilizations and revealing secret bonds that have helped societies, cultures and religions peacefully coexist. Join me and let's explore together.
Welcome back to A News. Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Russia has reportedly approached Turkey about repurchasing the S-400 air defense systems it sold to Ankara in 2019 amid alleged shortages and growing demand from other countries, according to Turkish media. The move comes as Turkey develops its own steel dome system, cutting reliance on Russian S-400s. The report says many countries have requested air defense systems from Russia, but Moscow has no S-400s in stock beyond its own use. As a result, it is reportedly considering buying back the systems from Turkey. Turkish authorities are yet to make an official statement on the matter. Turkey's foreign ministry has marked the 107th anniversary of Baku's liberation, extending their congratulations to the Azerbaijani people. In a statement, Ankara said the struggle for independence remains a shared pride and paid tribute to those who gave their lives for freedom. The ministry added that their sacrifice will always be remembered with mercy, gratitude and respect, underlining the historic bond between Turkey and Azerbaijan. Now, President Ilham Aliyev has visited several towns and villages in Karabakh, launching new development projects and meeting with local residents. The Azerbaijani leader highlighted both the challenges of the past conflict and the country's ambitious plans to rebuild the region and secure lasting peace.
As Azerbaijan solidifies its position as one of the key global connectivity arteries, the Karabakh region and the Zangezur corridor gain traction as future centers of regional and global logistics. With recent developments placing the country at the forefront of global transport projects, on September 14th, President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev visited Kankendi, Shushakand village, Girmizi Bazaar, Hadrut settlement, and Sos village. During the visit, President Aliyev inaugurated several development projects, including the clinic building of Qarabağ University and the academic building of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences in the city of Kankendi, as well as the mosque in Hadrut, among others. While meeting with residents of Girmizi Bazaar, Hadrut settlement and Sos village, President Aliyev highlighted the role of spoilers during the efforts to resolve the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Biz bilirsiniz uzun yıllar çalışırdık ki Karabağ münakaşası Türk yoluyla hallolunsun.
You know that for many years we worked to resolve the Karabakh conflict peacefully. But the Armenian side and those backing them had other intentions. They had no intention of returning our lands. They, along with their supporters, the leaders of major powers, encouraged them, as if they wanted to make this occupation permanent. But they failed to account for one thing: the will, strength, and devotion of the Azerbaijani people to their homeland, the bravery and heroism of the Azerbaijani soldier, and the unity of our people.
Azərbaycan əskərinin olan şücaəti, qəhrəmanlığı və xalqımızın birləşməsini.
With the devastating conflict now part of history, President Aliyev underscored Azerbaijan's commitment to rebuilding.
Just as we fought and triumphed in war, we are now building and creating in times of peace. The Armenians left our lands in ruins. They razed the villages and cities where you lived to the ground. The conditions in which they themselves lived were such that, as they say, no self-respecting person would ever live there. But look at what we have accomplished in just 5 years. Cities, villages, bridges, tunnels, water reservoirs and power stations have been built. The scale of construction happening here in Karabakh and Zangezur is unmatched anywhere in the world.
The visit underscores Azerbaijan's ambition to restore and rebuild infrastructure in these regions, integrate the territories into the global economy, and ensure that residents returning to these areas can live in peace.
Turning to diplomacy, Azerbaijan and Turkey discuss prospects for opening the Zangezur corridor. AK Party Deputy Chairman Kursad Zorlu discussed the project and bilateral cooperation in the region with Azerbaijani officials. The project is expected to enhance transport, energy and logistics links between Azerbaijan and Turkey.
The Deputy Chairman of Turkish ruling Justice and Development Party and Head of Relations with Turkic states has visited Nakhchivan for a series of high-level meetings. During the visit, discussions covered the opening of offices for the Turkish Cooperation and Coordination Agency and the Yunus Emre Institute in Nakhchivan. Opportunities in mining and research projects were also highlighted, with officials stressing that bilateral ties are set to deepen further.
If the corridor between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan is realized, it will not only connect Azerbaijan to Turkey, but also create an important transport, energy and logistics corridor stretching from Beijing, across the Caspian, to Turkey and Europe.
A Turkish official, touching on regional diplomacy, highlighted the Turkish-Armenian normalization process. They noted that the region is progressing towards significant advances in peace, stability and security. Analysts say that once the Zangezur corridor is realized, it will not only expand regional economic and transport opportunities, but also reinforce Turkish strategic role in Eurasia. In this context, Ankara is expected to remain a key actor in the project. Associate Professor Orhan Valiyev emphasized in an interview to our news.
Yes, Turkey will be part of the key partner, the key actor on this the project. So and also the establishment of the Zangezur corridor will open the opportunities for Turkey to strengthen its the central role within the framework of the Turkic world and also, let's say, Eurasia, because Turkey will become the hub in terms of the energy roads, and let's say because the Zangezur corridor will eventually include railroads, the pipelines, and also fiber optic lines as well. So Turkey will become the main hub in this issue, and also because of its the military the capacity, and also as a NATO member country state. So Turkey will be the key the actor in this the project.
The Iğdır-Nakhchivan natural gas pipeline is also significant in terms of energy diversification and security. It further strengthens the bonds of brotherhood between Ankara and Baku.
Now, Armenian Interior Minister Arpin Sargsyan met with Brendan Hanrahan, a senior U.S. State Department official, to discuss bilateral cooperation and the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Sargsyan praised the U.S. role in the August 8th Armenian-Azerbaijan peace agreement and highlighted ongoing efforts in police reform, cybercrime prevention and security cooperation. Hanrahan emphasized the close partnership between Armenia and the United States and the importance of continued collaboration. Staying with Armenia, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said that Armenia is experiencing its highest level of security in history. Addressing the international conference, Comprehensive Security and Resilience 2025, he emphasized that the country is more independent, sovereign, and secure than ever before. According to Pashinyan, a peace has been established between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and the focus now is on making decisions that ensure long-term stability. He said institutionalizing peace is essential and will safeguard Armenia's statehood for centuries. Pashinyan also noted that recognizing Azerbaijan's territorial integrity was necessary to secure Armenia's own borders, and that the August 8th peace agreement in Washington further strengthened Armenian security. We will be back after a short break. When we return, we'll be discussing Doha hosting an emergency Arab-Islamic summit today to address the recent Israeli attack on Qatar.
In one of the frontline areas of Ukraine. Being here and seeing things, talking to people, we can clearly tell that the war has changed drastically since its beginning in 2022. Or maybe not. Is that really the case? The war has been going on since 2014.
Ратифицировать подготовленный для подписания договор о вхождении Республики Крым и города Севастополь в Российскую Федерацию. Не сомневаюсь в вашей поддержке.
У 2014 році Росія прийшла до нас з одним словом, з новим словом. І це слово війна.
Гармата! Some people serving here, they have been in military in this war so long, it's difficult for them to tell how they will be able to return to a normal civilian life. The story of all those people who can withstand aggression, withstand grief, and withstand their lives changing forever.
Тяжело. Но держусь. Держитесь и вы все, кого я знал и с кем я был. Слава Украине! Победа за нами!
On World Business, we meet the boardroom leaders making market-moving decisions. And find out how leaders are dealing with continuous technological disruption.
Welcome back to A News. Leaders from across the Arab and Islamic world are gathering in Doha for an emergency summit after Israel launched a deadly attack on the Qatari capital. The strike killed 5 Hamas members and a Qatari security official, though Israel failed to hit the Hamas leadership it claimed to be targeting. The attack has shattered the sense of security long felt in Qatar and neighbouring states. Qatar, which has long positioned itself as a mediator in regional conflicts, has called this summit to forge a united response. The meeting will bring together leaders from the 57-member Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the 22-member Arab League, including Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and Malaysia's Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Qatar's government says the summit will consider a resolution condemning Israel and could explore measures ranging from downgrading diplomatic ties to imposing economic curbs. As the summit opens, I'm joined by Onur Erim, President of Dragoman Strategies in Istanbul, Turkey, to help us unpack what this extraordinary gathering could mean for the region and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
How significant is it that Qatar, traditionally a mediator, is now leading this strong regional response to Israel?
Well, as you commented, Qatar is usually a grounds for mediation, especially in the Middle East. And it has really acted responsibly in the past and very proactive. And with the recent attack on Qatar by Israel, I think they will have more reasons to be involved rather than just being a mediator and trying to build peace in the region. So for more than a couple of reasons, I think Qatar is now and has been, but still is, probably the best place to try to improve this possible approach to peace.
Well, by virtue of being a mediator, Qatar has good relations with both the East and West, and this summit signal and the region's stance to Israel and its allies, particularly the United States, given that the US also counts Qatar as an ally, what implications could this have on American relationships with both Israel and those in the region?
Well, hopefully all good. I mean, we have been starting to see some signs of President Trump also, making some comments in regards to, amongst the many, the recent injustices done by Israel. His comment, I think yesterday was, about the attack of Israel on sovereign Qatar ground. Is also implication on that. So we hope that all of this adds up to the unconditional support U.S. and probably more so Trump's has been given to the current government of Israel, because unless there is a ground where the people, the two states in the region, in the area, are treated somewhat equal, at least by virtue of who these people are, what they're trying to do. I think we'll be closer to a possible ceasefire, to a possible killing of the civilians. So I'm hoping this will all add up, because if it got Trump to a point where he is giving us signs for possible, I really want to bite my tongue in saying this, but possibly not giving unconditional support to the current government of Israel, no matter what they do, no matter how atrocious they are. This is giving me a hope for the future, where there could be a common ground, where at first stage at least the killing of the civilians would stop immediately. And
let's focus our attention away from the US. How united is this summit in particular? So the Arab and Islamic leaders, how united will they be in their response, given their differing interests and alliances?
Look, what they have done, what they have said in the past, even till today, and what they have done in the past and still today, it really shows us that either there is really no alliance when it comes to the issues of the Palestinians and the Palestine, or they just not acting upon it, because we have seen nothing but escalating attacks on the civilians of Palestine over the years. So this shows me either the Arab states are not unified enough to act, do anything really against these atrocities, or they just would not like to get involved. You could read this in any way you want. I'm looking at the end result. Over the past couple of decades, really nothing has been done by the Arab states. I would say more has been done by Turkey and by some of the EU countries. One is not an Arab nation, and the latter group is not even, Muslim. That shows me that's not giving me too much hope as to what the Arab nations will do, unless they are led by more Western powers, and probably unless they are led by really the USA rather than the EU.
Now, it may come as no surprise to many that Iran has called for a joint operations room against Israel. Do you see any chance of military coordination emerging from this?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Iran has proven herself over and over during the years that, as we say, they will talk the talk, but they never walk the walk.
And how likely is it that countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE might suspend or reverse steps towards normalizing ties with Israel?
It's a really tough question, to be honest with you. With the recent betterment of the relationships between both Saudi and EU, UAE and Israel, I don't know if they're at a point where they could actually do something that will affect Israel to do other things than what they have already been doing. I think they're too much involved with each other. They might look like that they're doing something, especially to ease the voices domestically in each respective country. But at the end of the day, is anything happening that will actually bother Israel? I haven't seen it so far, and I'm not too hopeful to see it in the future. As I said, because there's just too much involved, and for the last year and a half, since they have normalized their relationship between KSA and UAE with Israel, I think they're not at a point of going back on what's already been established, nor I don't even think they would like to do that, to be honest with you.
You mentioned that something that could bother Israel. Now, what comes to mind when you mention bother Israel is America and the relationship they have there. Could Qatar and its neighbors seek new defense or security guarantees from the US? Or has Washington's backing of Israel weakened trust in American security assurances?
It's been about 150 years where first the UK, then the US has almost never held their promises in the region. So whatever assurances US gives, whether this will actually hold any ground in the region or not, and if it does, if it's accepted, whether this will actually become a reality, we'll all have to wait and see. We really, can't comment one way or the other. As I said, history tells us all the negative things about these kind of circumstances. History has proven itself over and over that all this will do is just pass the time to make sure Israel still gets away with whatever they want to get away with. Hopefully, there's an old saying: the history repeats itself. Hopefully, coming up, history will not repeat itself, especially for U.S. to unconditionally support Israel, and then we will all be wronged. But am I hopeful that we will see that? I certainly am not.
Qatar has often positioned itself as the front runner in being a mediator, and Israel has somewhat burned that bridge by taking these actions. Who could stand in instead? What country could bridge this gap now? Who could call for a ceasefire?
Honestly, the quick answer would be whomever Trump wants to. Trump can point to anybody, and that would just happen overnight. Turkey is although a natural, but as much an unlikely candidate because presence of Turkey in the region will not only bother Israeli government, but it will also probably bother a lot of the Arabs as well.
Do you think this summit could pressure the US to reconsider its stance?
Well, it seems like the aura in the air is that it will probably have more impact than any other summit before. That's what it looks like. However, this is Middle East. We're talking about Israel. We're talking about USA. We're talking about the mostly forgotten Palestinians and Palestine. As I say, as I said in the beginning, I am hopeful that this will actually come out probably, as far as the end result is concerned, it would probably be one of the most improved summit endings. However, what that will impact or how that will impact eventually is a whole other story. As I said, we'll just have to wait and see.
And lastly, I want to gather your thoughts on what you would see as the most realistic, impactful outcome from this summit, and what could be considered a missed opportunity?
Missed opportunity would definitely be things as it was, hopefully, but possibly worse out of the summit. And optimistically, some indication that neither U.S. nor U.K. Would actually hint Israel at least hint Israel that they will not have their unconditional support anymore. I think that would be a big improvement. Would it affect the Palestinians? Would it affect Palestine right away? No, but I think that would be a hopeful step for the future to continue on.
Well, that's all we have time for, Onur, but I want to thank you for your insights and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
You're up to date with the world news for the hour. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.